In the last two sessions, we've talked about how many servings of nutrient-rich foods people need to eat each day from the different food groups. By choosing colorful fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and low-fat dairy and protein sources, we can provide healthy diets for the people we support. We also talked about limiting the amount of nutrient-poor foods served to individuals by avoiding processed foods with added fat, sugar, and sodium. But some of the individuals we support are on special diets that require us to have more specific information about a food. The nutrition facts label and ingredient list found on food packages can be helpful. Let's look more closely at the nutrition facts label. As we just said, the nutrition facts label can be found on packaged food, and each label gives basic information in the same way. This allows us to compare one food product to another using the same type of information. Notice that there's a lot of information on the label. What does it all mean, and how do we use it? Let's break it down into sections to make it easier to understand. The serving size is a standard amount of food given in measurements that are familiar to us, such as cups, tablespoons, or pieces. The serving size lets you know how many nutrients you're getting out of a specific amount of food. This doesn't mean that you need to eat the amount given in the serving size. It just means that the nutrients listed are based on a specific amount of food. The servings per container tell us how many servings are in a particular package. Different size food containers have a different number of servings per container. This information is important to know because all of the rest of the information on the label applies to just one serving, not the whole package. For example, if an individual you support eats 2 servings of a food instead of just 1, then they will get twice the amount of nutrients. Section 2 contains calorie information. Calories are a measure of the amount of energy we get from food. Eating too many calories and not using enough through physical activity can cause weight gain. An easy way to use the calories information is, if a food has under 40 calories, it's low, and it's high if it has over 400. Calories from fat just shows how many of the calories in the food come from fat. Section 3 tells us which nutrients to avoid or limit. This is the section where we find the amount of total fat, saturated fat, trans fats, cholesterol, and sodium. Eating too much of these nutrients isn't healthy and can lead to heart disease, cancer, and high blood pressure. We want to limit these nutrients as much as we can. We'll be discussing each of these in detail in the next session. Let's move on to discuss the nutrients we should eat more of. They're in Section 4. Most Americans don't eat enough of these nutrients, even though they're important in a healthy diet. Fiber found in food can help prevent constipation. Vitamin A is important for healthy eyes, and vitamin C prevents cell damage. All 3 of these nutrients can be found in fruits and vegetables. Calcium is important for healthy bones and can be found in dairy products. Iron can be found in dry beans, peas, and legumes, as well as meat, and can help blood carry more oxygen throughout our bodies. You can get plenty of these nutrients by eating nutrient-rich foods without having to take additional supplements. Section 5 shows that the percent daily value, which we will talk about next, is based on a 2,000 calorie diet. This section is not critical to understand, but it does show what the percent daily value is based on. The percent daily value is a guide that makes it easier to see how nutrients in a serving of food contribute to the total daily diet. Don't get caught up in the percentages. The important thing to remember is that 20% or more is high. So a 20% or higher daily value for the desired nutrients is good. Those are shown in blue on the label. We also want to keep the nutrients we need to limit to a value of 5% or lower. Those nutrients are yellow on the label. You may have noticed that some of the nutrients listed don't give a percent daily value. Trans fat is one example. Since there is no safe level of trans fats, we want to eat as close to 0 grams as possible. Neither proteins nor sugar have a percent daily value listed either. Unlike trans fats, however, this doesn't mean that we don't want to eat any protein or sugar. A percent daily value has not been set for them because most people in the United States get enough protein and sugar through food. Let's turn our attention to total carbohydrates. Sugars plus the fiber found in food make up total carbohydrates. As you can see, there is a percent daily value for total carbohydrates. Knowing the number of grams of total carbohydrates is useful when planning a diabetic diet. If you have an individual who is on a diabetic diet, talk to a dietitian, nurse, or other healthcare professional if you have questions or need more training on this diet. We will not be discussing it further here. Another helpful piece of information is the ingredient list. Ingredients are the different things that go into making up another food. Some foods, like fruits and vegetables, don't need an ingredient label if they stay as a whole piece. For example, this orange doesn't have an ingredient list because it is just an orange. But if we turn it into juice, the carton has to have an ingredient list. Other foods are made up of many different ingredients. The ingredient list is found on packaged foods. Food companies are required to list ingredients in the order from the largest amount to the least amount. In this bread example, whole wheat flour is the first ingredient listed, so we know that this bread is made up mostly of whole wheat flour. Wheat bran is the ingredient listed last, so we know that it is the ingredient in the smallest amount. The best food choices have simple, short ingredient lists made up of whole foods, with sugar, fat, or sodium being in the smallest amounts. Stay away from foods that have a long ingredient list with names that sound like something you would find in a chemistry lab. These foods are heavily processed and are usually nutrient poor. We will see more examples of this in the next module. The nutrition facts label can be challenging to understand, but just remember, eating a regular healthy diet doesn't have to be hard. Eat plenty of colorful fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and low-fat protein and dairy choices, and avoid processed foods with added fat, sugar, and sodium. The nutrition facts label and the ingredient list are available on the package if you want to know more about a specific food.